Across the state, tributes continue to come in to honor former President Jimmy Carter. From political outsider to beloved humanitarian, the Georgia native was the first president to reach his 100th birthday. Jimmy Carter passed away at his home on Sunday, surrounded by family. We have team coverage for you this midday. Our Liza Lucas is at the Carter Center in Atlanta. But first, we want to kick things off with our Zach Merchant with the 11 Alive political team, who has been in Plains since Sunday. Zach, what are you feeling there as people start to learn more about the plan to lay President Carter to rest?
Well, you can feel that sense of history here as this town gets ready to honor the man who called this place home for a century.
Small town Plains determined to sparkle as it prepares to wave goodbye one last time to President Carter.
It's very bittersweet.
It is the community where a century ago he was born, and on January 9th, where he will be laid to rest. Now, as preparations continue, people have come to pay their respects to the 39th president.
We knew this moment was coming. It comes for everyone, but you know, he had been a sick man for a while, but it's still just the finality of it, and it's very sad, very bittersweet.
You don't have anything really bad to say, say about him or his wife or his family. Everybody is just wonderful.
He was a state legislator who became president and global humanitarian, but always kept his roots in the hometown that always embraced him.
It's a sad day for America, not just for Plains, Georgia, and they should be as proud, like they always have been, of him, but now more than ever for what he has left for his legacy.
And that legacy will be celebrated in a multi-day state funeral. It starts here on the 4th. It includes stops in Atlanta and in Washington, D.C., before concluding right back here in Plains on the 9th. We're live in Plains. Zach Merchant, 11 Alive News.
And as Zach mentioned, those multi-day plans for President Carter, our Cheryl Preheim has more on the memorial plans for the president.
The state funeral for President Carter will begin on January 4th as his hearse will move from Phoebe Sumter Medical Center in Americus, Georgia, to his childhood home in Plains. There, the National Park Service will salute the late 39th president by ringing the farm bells 39 times. After the ceremony, he will travel to Atlanta, pausing at Georgia State Capitol for a moment of silence by Governor Brian Kemp before arriving at the Carter Presidential Center. After a brief service, he will lie in repose where members of the community can pay their respects until the morning of January 7th. That Tuesday, Carter will leave Georgia and head to Washington, D.C. Members of Congress will pay their respects in the late afternoon before the late president will lie in state for public visitation until the morning of January 9th. That morning, he will travel to the Washington National Cathedral for a ceremony and funeral service. Carter then heads back home to Georgia. His family will have a service at the Maranatha Baptist Church in Plains before a private burial. Cheryl Preheim, 11 Alive News.
And much like he did in life, Carter will crisscross the country, but he always returned to his home here in Georgia. And this is where history will live on. 11 Alive's Liza Lucas joining us from the Carter Center, where mourners continue to stop and pay their respects to the 39th president. And Liza, you've actually been talking to more of the Carter Center team there, who are also taking this time to reflect on Carter's impact and also the work that the center does worldwide.
That's exactly right. You know, so often, Aisha, we may jog by the Carter Center, we may drive by the Carter Center, but we may not often think about the critical work that is happening here every single day and in dozens of countries across the world. That foundation laid by Jimmy Carter.
Try to make the United States the #1 champion of peace.
That was former President Carter in 2019, and that mission continues today with the Carter Center, one part of which is supporting free and fair elections through the Democracy Program. Jonathan Stonestreet with the program got the chance to travel with Carter in Nepal in 2013, he tells me, during a critical election. He said he never met Carter prior to that trip and tells me he was so impressed that Carter knew everybody, knew everything about the country, and was there to step in during key moments when democracy was at stake.
In that instance, one of the key leaders didn't want to accept the results of the election, and he was able to say, I've won elections, I've lost elections, you'll come back from this, and contributed to that election result being accepted. At the same time, on election day, he was out talking to our observer teams. He was observing himself, but also sitting down and calling the teams all distributed all over the country. And he was so interested in it, and that was just fascinating for me to see.
And that's what you've been hearing, is that President Carter is a hands-on president, whether he was working with Habitat or on the farm or very much on that trip to Nepal, those pictures taken from that trip again back in 2013. Now, from a personal perspective, Stone Street tells me that the team here is still very much processing the news of the former president's passing like everyone else, and that is something hard to bear. But the contributions that he and Rosalind made throughout the years very much live on here at the Carter Center, and we have continued to see people come throughout the course of the morning, a steady stream of people dropping off flowers and other mementos to honor those very contributions. Live at the Carter Center, Liza Lucas, 11 Alive News.
Liza, thank you. And if you would like to send your condolences to the Carter family, just text Jimmy Carter to 404-885-7600. We'll send you a link to a public tribute plus the latest on those memorial plans.